They got Lil Durk in a hole for basically some BS. And right now we're going to show the paperwork.
New video of Lil Durk's release went viral shortly after an inmate exposed the harsh conditions he endured while incarcerated.
I know for a fact that's not the end of his story. Like, he coming from under that shit.
No one anticipated that Durk's release would have such a bizarre motive, despite the fact that rappers such as G Herbo had already hinted at something significant. Let's dissect it. Lil Durk's latest video gets viral. The tone was established by Durk's legal team's recording. They detailed circumstances that sparked grave worries. Fans were concerned about his safety and well-being due to the severe treatment, restricted access, and circumstances. His release was influenced by that particular incident. Fans are also complaining that other rappers aren't doing enough to support them.
Smirk is in there, man, realizing the world don't stop spinning because you lie.
You must comprehend the timeline in order to comprehend why that jail release moment caused the reaction that it did. Durk was taken into custody by U.S. authorities in Broward County, Florida, on October 24, 2024. Police officers close to Miami International Airport. 5 members of his Only the Family collective had been charged the day before, on October 23. These 5 were Asa Houston, Keith Jones, David Brian Lindsay, DeAndre Dantrell Wilson, and Kayvon London Grant. It was said that Durk was the one who planned the entire operation. On November 15, 2024, he was arraigned after being extradited to Los Angeles. He entered a not guilty plea. Detention without bond was mandated by the court. Since then, every effort to free Durk has been unsuccessful. Bail has been refused in December 2024. Prosecutors cited jail calls that demonstrated rule infractions, such as making 3-way calls using the phone accounts of other prisoners. Due to jail violations, a second bail review was rejected in May 2025. Prosecutors rejected his bail request in June 2025, citing evidence that he had tried to escape to Dubai before to his detention. The response has been the same each time: no. Then August 2025 arrived. After allegedly being discovered in possession of an unapproved Apple Watch, Durk was put in solitary confinement. The SHU, or Special Housing Unit, is not a typical jail cell. Isolation is the problem. Durk was in that facility for 4 months, 131 days. He was only permitted to make 1 phone call every month throughout that time. No regular interaction with anyone beyond the gates, no in-person visits. His legal team submitted a motion on January 6, 2026, claiming that the prolonged solitary confinement was against federal law and maybe the 8th Amendment. After a review hearing on January 7th, Durk was released from the SHU and returned to the general population on January 15, 2026. Since the matter was already settled, the February 9, 2026, follow-up status hearing on the extended SHU detention was cancelled. He was out of solitary already. Since then, there have been no reports of any additional violations or modifications to his general detention status. Durk remains in federal custody as a result. He remains in custody without bond. He continues to face charges that could result in a life sentence. However, he is able to make frequent phone calls for the first time in months. He is able to receive visits. He is able to communicate with others. And that little difference meant a lot to a fan base that has been following every court filing and legal development like it was a playoff game. It was a minor but significant move, according to his own attorney. And the reality is wonderfully captured in that remark. It is modest, yet it has meaning. The actual battle hasn't even begun though. The plot and the charges. Durk's charges, which read like a crime drama script except that one person is dead and every name is real, are the reason he is sitting in a federal prison facility, rather than his home studio. 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder for pay. 1 count of murder for hire resulting in death by use of interstate facilities. And 1 count of using, carrying, and discharging guns, including a machine gun, in furtherance of a violent crime, resulting in death are all charges against Durk. He might be imprisoned for the remainder of his natural life if found guilty on all counts. The stakes could not be higher, but federal prosecutors have stated that they would not pursue the death penalty. A plea bargain will not win you 5 years and a nod in this case. This is a case with a binary outcome, as his lawyer, Drew Findling, clarified in an interview with DJ Vlad.
Vlad, this is
Life?
This is a life imprisonment case. There's
Okay.
no in between. This isn't state court. There's no,
Right.
hey, we'll do 10, 15. It's a life case.
Everything revolves around that assertion. Here, there is no compromise. In order to bring Durk home in a few years, there is no negotiated capitulation to a lower charge. That is not how the federal government operates, particularly not in a situation this serious. Throughout the interview, Findling brought out the contrast between state and federal cases numerous times, and it is a crucial one.
If you and I talk, state cases are kind of middle school basketball and federal cases are kind of the NBA all-star in terms of the complexity and everything that goes into it.
He's talking about a complexity that begins with the underlying accusations. Prosecutors claim that the whole series of events began in November 2020, when Durk's close friend and only the family member Davon Bennett, also known as King Von, was killed in a fight with the crew of Georgia rapper Tyquan Terrell Bowman, also known as Quando Rondo, outside an Atlanta nightclub. According to the prosecution, Durk then put a bounty on Quando Rondo's life. According to the government's argument, the purported reward resulted in an unsuccessful murder attempt on August 19, 2022, at a gas station close to the Beverly Center Mall in Los Angeles. Quando Rondo made it through the assault, Saviaya Robinson, his 24-year-old cousin, didn't. The gunshots killed Robinson. The administration has gathered copious and finely detailed evidence to back up these claims. According to flight records provided by the prosecution, members used credit cards associated with Durk's label to travel from Chicago to California. They have reservations at hotels. They claim that certain correspondents link the group to the plot directly. They claim that Durk planned the scheme by providing the individuals who carried it out with incentives such as financial bounties and what the federal accusations characterize as attractive music chances. The government is portraying an image of a wealthy and influential artist who exploited his resources and connections to injure another person, which resulted in the death of an innocent person. The cooperation of at least one co-defendant gives the prosecution's case even more weight. In exchange for a possible reduced sentence, OTF Jam, real name Jamonte Norman, reportedly cooperated with authorities by giving information that implicated Durk. Cooperation has a different weight in the federal system than it does in state courts. In his discussion of the differences between federal cooperators and state witnesses, Findling expressly addressed this point, citing the notorious breakdown of Lil Woody's evidence during the Young Thug RICO trial as an illustration of something that just does not occur at the federal level.
So that just never happens in a federal case. And I'm saying this to the guy that did an iconic interview of Sammy the Bull Gravano, right?
Findling had something sobering to say. Cooperating witnesses are subjected to several interviews and come before grand juries in the federal system. On top of the accusations they were already facing, they might be charged with perjury and false statement if they retract or amend their narrative. People are intended to be locked in by the incentive structure, and it's effective. Lil Woody's breakdown on the stand is not typical of federal cooperators, because their own freedom depends on it.
People are locked in. I mean, they are locked in. They're in front of grand juries. There are multiple interviews.
They arrive prepared and provide the government with just what it requires. And that's one of the reasons Durk's case is so dangerous. Although no further charges have been brought against him, prosecutors also claim that he may be linked to other bounties, such as one on a witness's family member and another homicide in Chicago. One of the main reasons the trial has been repeatedly postponed is the case's discovery files, which total more than 30,000 pages. The court case. The courtroom motions are the shield that Durk's defense team has been using wherever they can, if the charges are the prosecution's sword. The argument over whether Lil Durk's music can be used to imprison him for the rest of his life has been the most intriguing battleground in this case. Prosecutors sought for the admission of lyrics, movies, and imagery as evidence at the trial on February 4, 2026, claiming that these artistic creations show purpose and motive. 5 days later, on February 9, 2026, the court rendered a decision that divided the parties. The song, Hanging with Wolves' specific words were excluded from the evidence. Prosecutors intended to utilize a phrase about daring law enforcement to catch him after he boarded a flight with a warrant. The judge ruled that those specific comments were not admissible because they were related to flight danger rather than the main counts of murder for hire. However, more lyrics and music videos are still being considered and might be shown to a jury. Although this dispute over lyrics is not exclusive to Durk's case, it has grown to be one of its most divisive aspects. The reasons made by Drew Findling, who has been outspoken in his displeasure with the practice of using rap lyrics as criminal evidence, are far more extensive than the particulars of this particular case. He presents it as a structural problem that specifically targets one musical genre and its primarily black performers.
And I'm sensitive to that issue because I don't know of another art form, and you have your finger on the pulse of rap as good as anybody in the world right now.
The broader point Findling has been making is made possible by that observation. He questions the notion that law enforcement has the knowledge or even the desire to comprehend the true workings of music production. Furthermore, he contends that this ignorance breeds harmful misunderstandings that might deprive people of their freedom.
And I guarantee you that Vlad cannot tell me another musical genre in which the government plays the game.
Prosecutors go through thousands and thousands of lines in the game Findling is describing, searching for terms that they can vaguely relate to illegal activity. He likened it to the Where's Waldo conundrum for kids. Furthermore, the parallel is startling since it implies that the government is more interested in finding anything that seems to fit than in evaluating the facts. The point hits home. If a media personality can take the time to learn how punch-in recording sessions operate, how lyrics are put together over many hours in the studio, and how the finished product is a creative creation rather than a journal entry, then those who have the power to sentence a man to life in prison should undoubtedly be expected to do the same research. However, Findling contends that they don't, and that this failure has ramifications for the entire genre. Among the defense's most important components has been the song Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy, which features Durk and Babyface Ray. In the superseding indictment, prosecutors said that the song's lyrics glorified and profited from Saviaya Robinson's death and Quando Rondo's attempted murder. Findling outlined the precise reasons why this accusation falls apart when examined. The defense looked into the production schedule and found that Durk recorded his part in the song 7 months prior to the actual shooting in August 2022. I'm 7.
And then we started doing our homework, interviewing the producers, and found out that that song and the Durk part of it was done 7 months beforehand.
Months. The prosecution's argument that the song was written to commemorate or capitalize on the shooting is completely refuted by that one fact, if it is demonstrated during the trial. The song had nothing to do with the incident, unless Durk had psychic abilities, Findling stated plainly. The defense also addressed the problem of YouTube fan modifications that included screams that sounded like Quando Rondo's reaction to his cousin's death. These edits were done by random fans in their garages and basements, and had nothing to do with Durk, Babyface Ray, or any of the corporate companies that produced the music, Findling explained. The defense has submitted many motions to dismiss the case completely, in addition to the lyrics dispute. A move to dismiss for deceiving the grand jury, specifically over the changed lyrics, was turned down in April 2025. Due to hidden death threats against the judge and prosecutor, the defense filed a dismissal request in November 2025 claiming that the procedures were contaminated, and that request was turned down. On November 18, 2025, a separate move to dismiss the indictment for ambiguity was turned down. The defense keeps pushing despite every motion being denied and every argument being rejected because, in a federal case where life in prison is at stake, you fight on every front at your disposal. In a statement that encapsulates the emotional weight of the lyrics controversy, Durk's family has also publicly voiced their opinions. They claim that Durk has always utilized music to convey stories, communicate grief, and heal, that the government provided a grand jury with fake evidence, and that they will not remain silent while black artists are still criminalized for their artistic expression, the subject of flight and the bond fight. Lil Durk's legal team has repeatedly requested that a judge allow him to wait for trial at home rather than in the Metropolitan Detention Center. But each time the request has been denied. And each time, the rationale has returned to the same central query. Will this man run if you let him out? A particular set of circumstances has served as the foundation for the prosecution's flight risk argument. On October 24, 2024, Durk was taken into custody and taken to the U.S. police officers close to Miami International Airport. Citing many international airline reservations made in his and his accomplices' names, including ones to Dubai and Switzerland, authorities claimed he was trying to leave the nation. Every bail request afterward has been weighed down by that accusation. However, the defense has offered a thorough refutation of the government's version of events. Findling clarified that after obtaining the full flight schedules, his team discovered that every reservation terminated in Dubai rather than at the intermediate points the government had indicated. The prosecution had provided insufficient details on planes that made stops in places like Rome without disclosing that Dubai was the ultimate destination on each and every itinerary. However, Findling focused most of his attention on the specifics of the reservations. Economy class seats in the back rows of the middle seats were reserved for the commercial flights. Additionally, Findling presented a point that uses straightforward common sense to break past the legal formality.
Each of them ended in Dubai, but they were row like 52 middle seat, and respectfully, it's Lil Durk.
The connotation is obvious. A wealthy and well-known individual like Durk would not leave the country by spending 17 hours crammed into a middle seat at the back of a commercial airliner. For someone who almost every young person on that airline could identify, it would be both logistically ridiculous and physically painful. Findling maintained that a private jet was simply reserved as a backup when the commercial choices proved unfeasible, and that the commercial reservations were not actual escape preparations.
He's not going to sit in the middle row for 17 hours in the back of the plane. A lot of people would. It's just more of a distraction to him.
Then, Findling disclosed a fact that the majority of those who are following the case are unaware of. The probation officer examined all of the information and determined that Durk was not a flight risk after the defense gave the federal probation office the full itineraries. The court was advised to do so by the probation officer. It was not followed by the court. However, it is noteworthy that a federal officer who was tasked with assessing these same questions expressed support for the defense. The defense has put forth a sizable bond package. $1 million in cash, $900,000 in real land, $150,000 from a partner, 24-hour armed security, and electronic surveillance are all included. The offer is not casual. That bundle is intended to remove any potential risk that the court may find, and the response has remained negative. Findling has made a strong case for Durk's decision to stay. He's got kids. He's got family. He has a mother that he adores and a father with whom he had no genuine relationship until 2019. A relationship that was abruptly cut off by the epidemic.
He's got kids. He's got family. He's got his mom who he loves. He's got his dad who he's waited until 2019, after 26 years, to have a relationship with.
The bond argument gains a very personal depth from his relationship with his father, which had been developing for decades and had just begun to take shape when COVID shut down the world. This legal filing is not abstract. This is the bond between a guy and those he loves the most. And Findling has maintained that it is precisely these bonds that make a man someone who would never run away from them. The bond battle is far from over. According to Findling, the defense plans to present the matter to the district court judge in order to obtain what is known as a de novo review, which entails a wholly new assessment of all the available evidence. It is hoped that a new judge who considers the whole picture, instead of just the prosecution's selectively presented version, will come to a different judgment. However, the federal system is slow, and Durk spends each day indoors if there isn't a bond ruling.
They got Lil Durk in a hole for basically some BS, and right now we're going to show the paperwork.
According to reports, Durk has filed documents looking at the possibility of bond or home arrest. However, no release has been issued. The airline reservations and the jail violations are still used by the prosecution as proof that he is unreliable in adhering to the terms of his release. This pattern has now been repeated several times, and, with each iteration, the hope that Durk could be able to get ready for his trial outside of the MDC is eroded a bit more. The path forward and the opinions of others. The original date of the trial that will decide whether Lil Durk spends the rest of his life behind bars has been pushed back so many times that it seems like it happened ages ago. The original date was January 7th, 2025. After being rescheduled to October 2025 and then January 2026, the trial is now scheduled to begin on April 24th, 2026, with a backup date of May 4th, 2026, contingent on final scheduling choices. The overwhelming amount of discovery materials and co-defendants' demands for more preparation time have been the main causes of each delay. According to reports, Durk has protested the most recent delay, saying he is eager to stand trial and clear his name. That particular element reveals something about his attitude. Usually, a guilty individual does not try to speed up the process. A self-assured man wants his court appearance to happen as soon as feasible. There are still important legal battles to be won between now and that April date. There is still some uncertainty surrounding which song lyrics and music videos will be allowed throughout the trial. Although certain lines from Hanging with Wolves were banned by the February 9th verdict, other creative works are still being considered. The landscape that the jury will see is altered by each piece of evidence that is permitted or excluded prior to the start of the trial. Furthermore, those pre-trial decisions are very significant when the prosecution is relying on communications, travel logs, cooperating witness testimony, and circumstantial evidence.
I enjoy my time with him. He smiles. He smiles from ear to ear. He's just respectful to everybody on the team.
Throughout this struggle, Findling has characterized his general assessment of Durk's mental state as surprisingly robust. Findling's response to the question of how Durk was coping with the stress of facing life in prison revealed a man who had not let the situation break him. He said that his poise transcends the lawyer-client relationship and that he is self-assured, courteous, and respectful. Durk is involved, focused, and truly grateful for each member of the legal team representing him, Findling stated. The portrayal of a heartless mastermind of violence that prosecutors are attempting to create contrasts sharply with such depictions. It's a very different story whether or not a jury ever learns about Durk's behavior while in detention.
I know for a fact that's not the end of his story. Right. He coming from under that shit.
His own lawyer, however, presents a picture of poise under unfathomable strain to those watching the case from the outside. Then there are those in Durk's sphere who have made public statements regarding their predictions.
He always been somebody that, like, through all the adversity of any trials and tribulations, he always been able to, like, overcome that shit and reinvent himself.
In an interview, fellow Chicago rapper G Herbo, who has known Durk for years and worked musically with him, was questioned directly about the matter. He did not respond cautiously or with hesitancy. It was a resounding affirmation that Durk would live through this chapter.
That's what really make him the GOAT to me, because when you come from where we come from and been through the stuff that we've been through, it's like, it's easy to give up.
Herbo placed Durk's predicament in the context of a larger trend he has seen throughout their professional lives. He described seeing Durk repeatedly reinvent himself, overcoming setbacks that would have led most people to give up and coming out stronger and more accomplished than before. According to Herbo, the characteristic that sets Durk apart from everyone else is his capacity for adaptation and reconstruction.
A lot of times when you get that big, people work overtime to try to pull you down, to try to pull you off of that mountaintop, you feel what I'm saying?
It's more than just skill. It is the refusal to remain in one place. However, Herbo also accepted the unpleasant truth of the circumstance. He didn't mince words when asked how tough it is to watch Durk go through this. He referred to it as distressing and highlighted a reality that transcends the judicial situation of any one individual. People put in extra effort to undermine you. Once you achieve a particular level of accomplishment, then, with the weight of someone who has witnessed Durk defy the odds before, Herbo issued a prediction. Even while it is a sad period, he claimed that it will eventually create a Durk that is more dangerous, focused, and determined than anything the world has yet seen him exhibit.
Sometimes that should just make you a different type of animal, type of beast, where you just like hearing like, damn, everybody counting me out.
What transpires in a Los Angeles courtroom somewhere in April 2026 will determine whether or not that prediction comes to pass. Review of the discovery is ongoing. The motions have not yet been submitted. The preparation of the cooperating witnesses is still ongoing. And Durk continues to wait for the opportunity to stand in front of 12 people and share his experience, while seated inside the Metropolitan Detention Center. However, what are your thoughts? Will this all turn out badly? Or will he be able to get out of this situation quickly? Please share your opinions with me in the comments area. Click on the next card that appears on your screen to view more videos like this one.